This is a tutorial about using Python in picture blocks with sprites as well. This is part of a project or activity day 1 for the STEMpedia Bootcamp. So this is session 1, day 1. You've got introduction to theory and then this activity about the simple interest loan calculator. So the simple interest, or just interest, you've got simple interest and you've got complex interest. And that's, for example, in Australia is taught normally around the year 11 and year 12 as a part of the official mathematics. But anyway, for this exercise, we keep it simple and we're saying that the interest is principal times rate of interest times the period, the time period. And to keep it simple, we'll just talk about the period being in years. In practical terms, it depends on the loan you're taking. It could be every 3 months. It could be monthly. It could be yearly. Could be anything. And it's the same formula, but with just a slight variation of what goes into it. Anyway, for this particular purpose, so this is just demonstrating how to use it, not a lesson about mathematics or financial mathematics. So we'll keep it simple, stupid. So here the rate is a percentage. For example, if you say 5%, you divide by 100 becomes 0.05. So the formula is really you get what's been given here and you divide it by 100. So the rate as a percentage and you divide by 100 in the formula. Now, from other languages, it is a good idea to reset the initial values. So if you don't give them values to these variables, they can take any random value. So I like to always start with known, not leave it to unknown. So I made A as 0, P as 0, R as 0, T as 0, which are all part of this formula. And the formula itself, I defined it I equal P times R times T. Star is the character that represents multiplication in Python. Now, also, I imported the time module, so then I can call it because I want the bear to say something and then wait. It is possible actually with the sprite to define in it how much to wait. I initially started it by doing some of it with the sprite and some without. That's why I use the time function. And because I'm using the time function, instead of typing in it how much I wanted, it was the same thing again and again. So I defined a variable called, or a constant called delay, and I gave it 2 seconds. So now I say delay. So if I wanted to change that, I only need to go here and change the value. So for example, 403, I change this into 3, then all over it will be having a delay of 3 seconds. Now, as you'll see like later in the program, you can say, and you put at the end how many seconds you wanted to say it for. If you don't put anything, it will leave it till something else change it. So you can do it either way. I decided to do it via the time function. So, and I defined here, a function called interest calculator, which takes the principal rate and time. So it takes P, R, and T, you pass them to this function, and what it does, this is the total interest plus the initial value. So what you need to pay, if you withdraw, for example, if your loan is 5,000 and you got interest, let's say 1,700, the total amount you need to pay is what you started with, the 5,000 you took, plus what interest you need to pay. So this is the interest is PRT. We write over 100 at the end because with multiplication, doesn't matter whether it's here or here or here, means the whole thing is divided by 100 anyway. But if you put it before, like here, for example, it could be interpreted that over 100 times time, for example. That's why we put it at the end, which gives you the right answer, and we'll make sure, otherwise we need to use brackets. So it's not considered to be in the denominator. Anyway, so we defined it and we're saying what we're returning. we set amount equal that, which is the principal plus the interest, and we're returning the amount. So it calculates the amount. When you call this function, calculate the amount and passes back or return to you the amount. So we're saying start by saying this sprite, which is Toby, which is defined at the start import. After import time, you've got sprite equals sprite Toby. That's the name of the sprite. If you had other sprites, you can just call their name. So we called it, initialized it. We'll make it say that I is simple interest in this case. Then we make it wait for the delay, which is 2 seconds. Then we're defining what the interest is formula, all the parameters. Then we're going to ask the user to tell us what the principal is, and we save it in P, the variable P, and then we'll ask for the percentage. We serve it rate of interest percentage, and we save it as R. And then finally we ask for the time period, and we save it in T. Then we can pass that to this function, which will take P, R, and T, and give us back the final amount. So first, I'm saying, okay, I want to tell you what the interest is for that value that you have taken. So whatever value you take, this will calculate in real time. So the answer will be different for different values of capital, principal, and different interest and different time periods. So then I'll tell you what the interest is, and then I'll tell you what you have to pay at the end, which was the initial value that you have taken from the bank, plus the interest. So let's run that program, and all the action will be happening here, and he will be asking us here, and we answer the bear that's called Toby, and this logic will be running. So let's run it. So as we see, he's telling us I equals simple interest. That's the formula. P times T. I is interest, P principal, R rate, and T is time. So I equal P times R times T. Now is telling us to enter principal. So for example, if I wanted to borrow $5,000, I enter this and hit enter or click on that tick. Now the rate interest, let's say it was 3.53%. Then for how many years? Let's say I wanted to borrow it for 7 years. So telling you for that principal, 1235.5 is the interest, and then I have to pay 6,235.5 at the end of the 7 years. This was the exercise for activity 1, day 1, and that tutorial for it that I'm going to publish on my private YouTube. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something from it. And as I said, here we don't really need to use the time function, but I did use it. We can use it as a part of what the sprite is saying. So I can just say comma 4 seconds. Here I could have said comma 2, etc., instead of using the time function. But originally I designed it that part of it will be via the sprite and part of it was going to be via the terminal. But then I kept it as per standard, and there's no need to combine. So I made it all sprite, but I left the time function, which will be useful in other places. But here with the sprite, it can be built in, and that's how it is. And at the end, on purpose, I didn't not define how long to display this, because we'll stop here and you will have that message left indefinitely till you stop or run a new program. So that's as a reminder. So there's no point of saying, for example, it's 4 seconds and then it will disappear, because someone might be wanting to write or take a screenshot or something. So we just leave it at that. If you wanted it to disappear, then just put comma and whatever time you want that to be displayed in seconds. See you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.